Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Houston will be lucky if they just had a problem. But Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler closed out a monster Game 1 win. Also, an unlikely player led the Nuggets to their Game 1 win. And a running back should not go early round 1 this year. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Golden State Warriors, the rare 7 seed, favored against the 2. Game 1 against the Houston Rockets on Sunday night, and the Warriors showed why they are series favorites. Had a lead as big as 23 at one point. They let the Rockets creep back into it late, but a 95-85 win to take that 1-0 series lead. Kylan Mills from Locked On Warriors joins me now. And Kylan, this played out, I think, in a lot of ways, the way that we predicted it with the Warriors, and that pedigree, their ability to score the basketball helped too, showing out in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. You knew this was going to be a tough contest because the Rockets are the best rebounding team in the league. They also have a ton of size, which is something the Warriors are lacking. But the Dubs have experience, and I think it was the defense that separated them as they went on a run in the second quarter. It was really not just collecting stops, but forcing turnovers. In the first 6 minutes of the second quarter, the Dubs had 5 steals. And the ability to get transition baskets when you're going up against a big team is crucial. The Dubs finished 16-4 with the edge in fast break points. So I think that's something that was super important. You mentioned the experience in terms of being able to close out this game down the stretch. Here's the thing. The Warriors have 2 closers now. They have Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, and Butler was hitting some tough shots there in the fourth quarter. I mean, he doesn't even just need a screen. He can obviously, back you up, but also just in the mid-range, shooting over guys, defenders draped around him in crunch time. It's ridiculous. And then the chef was cooking, finally got going there with his first 2 threes just before half, then hit a couple big ones down the stretch. So you've got closers on this team. You've got the championship experience. Like I said, I think the defense was the big thing that separated the Dubs. Yes, the Rockets creeped back in, and I think their defense forced Golden State to be a little bit rushed in some of their offensive possessions there in that third quarter. But once they settled in, they were able to close it out. A huge win for the Dubs. And I don't know if I'm feeling great right now if I'm Houston after you give up the opening game on your home floor against a Warriors team that is very underseeded at 7, in my opinion, because of how well they've been playing since Jimmy Butler joined this lineup. Tonight's starting lineup 17-3 coming into this one.
Yeah, and they didn't get a lot of help from everyone else in Golden State. It was the 25 from Jimmy Butler, the 31 from Steph Curry, and it was Jimmy Butler at, what are we, generously 6'6", on the scorecard, and he's going up among the trees, getting a huge rebound and put back late that helps seal the deal. They're going to need that from this team. Do you have any concerns that, hey, okay, Houston's not going to shoot 20% from 3 in game 2 or game 3? You can't count on that every game. That any concern that they're a little reliant on those 2 guys right now?
I think certainly there's always a level of concern, but I think the big thing is that it's not just Steph Curry, because when it's Curry alone carrying the load, that's where you see teams really be able to hone in on him defensively, 2-3 guys on him. And then it's like, okay, when no one else is scoring, kind of like we saw tonight, like who's going to be the number 2? That was the big question mark this season, last season, going back to a season prior, ever since that 2022 championship run, is who was the number 2. I feel better now that it's not just one guy scoring a majority of the baskets. It is 2, because you do have a Jimmy Butler. When it comes to defensive game planning, I do think it's difficult to game plan for both of those guys, because you've got Steph Curry who's going to stretch the floor, and you got to be, face guarding him way beyond the arc, not just at the edge of the 3-point line. And then Jimmy Butler is a 3-level scorer, maybe not the greatest 3-point shooter, but he is a master in the mid range. Like I said, he can back players up, he can post you up, he can get to the basket. He's gritty. He's fighting for O boards, as you pointed out down the stretch. I also like the complementary aspect of those 2's games. And I just think Jimmy Butler brings an element the Warriors did not have in terms of a guy who can score in the paint. You look at Draymond Green, you look at Kevon Looney, they're bigs. neither of those two guys are scorers. Draymond Green was at one point in his career, but not today. He is, pretty much a defensive specialist at this point. Yeah. And then you've got a very young Quentin Post who has the ability to stretch the floor. I thought he had played some good minutes tonight, but I also thought you saw a little bit of his, I say youth, he's 25, but he's a rookie in the league. Don't get me started on the whole college thing. But I thought he got banged up a little bit inside. And there were a couple times where it's like, man, come on, Quentin, you got to box out. You got to push Steven Adams away from the basket. You got to grab that board, rip it away from him. You got to go up for the dunk harder than that. And so I just think having Jimmy Butler is super important to the Warriors team. So I don't have a high level of concern. I think there's certainly a little bit of concern, but I think that we do need to see some of the role players continue to contribute. I mean, I thought Moses Moody, for having a quiet game, hit two of the biggest shots of the game in that corner three right there about the last minute mark. He also hit that two late in the shot clock, like falling away from the basket. That was incredibly tough. And I think it stretched the lead to like 6 or 7 at that point when the Rockets were really creeping back in. So I think when you can get those clutch plays from the others, that's also going to help push this Warriors team to success moving forward in this series.
Isn't this also theoretically, and I don't mean to be negative about it, but like, isn't this also theoretically where you'd like to have someone like Jonathan Kuminga, who is a DNP CD in this game?
Yeah. You know what? It is. And there have been quite a few rumors flying around here in the last week about what the future is of Jonathan Kuminga with this Warriors organization. Dealt with a lot of injuries throughout the season. Coming into the year, I mean, people were talking about him possibly being the number 2 to Steph Curry because he's a player who came in this league extremely raw with a ton of athleticism and talent. Just trying to polish him up and fine tune and develop was supposed to be the idea. But it's like, at what point are we getting to year 3, year 4, beyond, where it's just not quite all coming together? So there's a lot of question marks about what his role is going to be with this team right now, in the future. Is he going to be on the Dubs next season? Definitely you would like to have him on the floor because I do think he has a raw athleticism that, again, is something the Warriors do not have and haven't had in terms of just his size, his explosiveness. I think he's improved defensively. And like I said, he can use that athleticism to protect the rim. But, his standing with the Warriors organization right now is a huge question mark. So I'm not going to peg him as being a major factor moving forward. But yeah, you would absolutely love to see a guy who is that type of, like I said, just raw talent and athleticism being a factor. But I don't know if it was the injury setting him back. Like I said, there's just some concerns about what's going on behind closed doors. He has not had a smooth tenure from day one to now, where, reports are coming out in local newspapers about him being unhappy with Steve Kerr not playing him maybe not having the right attitude when it comes to a young player not getting the role they were expecting. So there certainly is a lot of reason to question what Jonathan Kuminga's role is going to be in this series and then moving forward.
You can stay up to date all year on the Golden State Warriors by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Warriors on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Nuggets elevated by an unlikely hero in Game 1. Before we get to that, the Cavaliers' playoff run has begun. There is nothing like the energy of a live game. Whether it's catching a last-minute Major League Baseball showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA playoff matchup, finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. With last-minute tickets, all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as the beginning of the game gets closer, so you can score amazing seats at a great price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The Cleveland Cavaliers began their run with a win over the Heat.
The Miami Heat lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 1. There's a lot of things that you could point to from this game. Ty Jerome erupting in the fourth quarter, probably swinging this game. But for the most part, this was closer than I think Cleveland expected it to be. Miami was hanging in there for a lot of this game up until Jerome just went off and carried Cleveland to this win. But the big question now for Miami going from Game 1 into Game 2 is, how can they make things easier on offense? They got just 5 shots at the rim the entire game. Miami did a lot of their work in the mid-range, but that is not going to be sustainable against this Cleveland Cavaliers team that is number 1 in offense in the NBA. The Heat have to figure out a way to get better shots in the half court. They have to figure out a way to get in transition more often to make things easier on their half court offense. And they have to figure out a way to generate more shots at the rim, get more 3-point attempts up, and get Tyler Hero going, who was taken out of most of this game. So the Heat have a lot of questions that they got to answer on offense if they want to make this a series. Check out Locked On Heat for more.
The Boston Celtics dominated the Orlando Magic in their game one.
Boston Celtics get the easy 103-86 win. I say easy because the score was not particularly close. Celtics broke it open in the second half after a big second quarter by the Orlando Magic. Drew Holiday was a difference maker in the third quarter, pushing the tempo. The Celtics were not getting a ton of three-point attempts. In fact, they only finished with 37, which is well below what they normally shoot. But they made 16 of them, thank you, Derek White and Drew Holiday. Holiday in the third quarter was pushing the pace, getting the Celtics, even after misses, up the floor so they can beat that Orlando defense, not let Orlando get set, and it started to pay off. Derek White was huge. He hit 7 of 12 from 3. He had 30 points. On a night where Jaylen Brown was good and looked explosive early, but didn't score a ton. Jason Tatum did not shoot well. Peyton Pritchard off the bench was big. Really, the guard play made the big difference. Orlando was so focused on cutting the Jays and Porzingis off that Boston's just too deep. Got too many players that can go off. So the Celtics take game one. The numbers that we expected coming in, Orlando not being able to shoot, but still making it tough for Boston for large portions of this game, held true. Let's see what happens if the Jays can bounce back in game two.
Minnesota Timberwolves made short work of the LA Lakers in game one. Is LeBron gonna get swept?
The Minnesota Timberwolves destroyed the LA Lakers by 22 points in a game one road victory to open up the playoffs. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the daily Locked On Wolves podcast. I don't think anybody had Jaden McDaniels leading the Wolves in scoring in this one, but he did. He had 25 points on 13 shots. Naz Reid was their second leading scorer, 23 points on just 12 shots in this game. The Wolves, they shot 50% from three. They were 21 of 42 from deep. But guess what? Turns out when you hold the opposition under 100 points, you've got a pretty good shot to win the game. They held the Lakers below 40% shooting. Luka Doncic had 37, but nobody else in the Lakers had more than 19 points. LeBron didn't get involved until the second half. The Lakers made things kind of interesting, end of the third, early fourth quarter, but the Wolves held on late. This was just a well-rounded game that was really keyed by the Timberwolves bench trio of Naz, Dante DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and a lot of Jaden McDaniels. A really, really solid win for the Wolves in game one as they steal home court. Subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
And on the playoff ice, the St. Louis Blues left on the runway by the Winnipeg Jets.
And the Blues fall 5-3 to the Winnipeg Jets. This was not the result any of us wanted. The Jets played really aggressive offensively. Personally, when the game began, I felt really confident that the Blues were going to win this one. Robert Thomas scored, Oscar Sundqvist, and then, of course, Jordan Kyrou. But Jordan Kyrou actually had a really close opportunity to score his second goal of the game and was able to follow through with it. So that was a bummer because in hindsight, that could have made a huge difference if the Blues went up by 2 goals. I actually thought Jordan Binnington did play a good game. Obviously, Zach Bolduc had a really stupid penalty. But towards the end of the contest, it got a little bit chippy. And you know what? At the end of the day, this is a series, okay? So I said Blues in 6, and I still stand by that. And while Winnipeg only held the Blues to a few shots on net in the final frame, the Blues still put up 3 goals against this Winnipeg team. It's not a series until the away team wins.
The Denver Nuggets got a big-time win in Game 1 over the LA Clippers as the game stretched into overtime. Our Locked On Nuggets host broke down how they did it, starting with an unlikely hero.
Matt, as somebody who is very strong and foundational in their beliefs, why would I ever waver from my unwavering faith in Russell Westbrook, Matt? Here's the thing. Like, this is what makes Russ Russ. Like, 5 of 17, made some wild plays, didn't do everything perfectly, didn't matter. Like, the Nuggets needed him on the floor at the end of this game. It was so important for him to be out there. It could have been Peyton Watson, I guess, but it was Russell Westbrook, and it was Russell Westbrook for a reason. He was playing extremely well, helping them out on both ends of the floor. But for him to have that moment and basically the 30 seconds left on the clock, right? 30 seconds left on the clock. Denver's down by 1. They need a bucket. And the Clippers had been doing this thing where they were doubling off of Russ early in the shot clock. taking Chris Dunn and trying to push him into the Jokic Murray actions as much as possible, force chaos, cause turnovers. And Jokic had this moment on that play where he looked at Russ, knew he had him open, looked at the rest of the floor, tried to figure out exactly what they could do and whether Russ was the best choice in that play. And then he passed the ball. And then Russell Westbrook hit the biggest shot of the game, a shot that took Denver from down 1 to up 2, a huge, huge three in the left corner. And like, it's those moments of trust that Denver has been preaching, right? Like, especially over the course of these past couple of weeks, it's trust, it's accountability, it's playing together, it's understanding that you can't do it all by yourself. It's been very fascinating to see how Denver has evolved. But like, credit to Russ, man. He deserves his flowers in this moment, made some massive plays.
I love this comment from Fernando. I love that today didn't take Jokic doing Herculean tasks. A lot of the other guys stepped up. That's David Adelman talked a lot about that, about a lot of guys who aren't named Jamal or Jokic made big shots in that fourth quarter and overtime. And it's absolutely true. Russ hits the jumper with 24 seconds remaining in this one to make it 98-96 to take the lead. Let's go back to the beginning and let's talk about, I think this is really fascinating. Among the number of ways I think this is impressive, if you told me that the Nuggets in this game were going to only shoot 44% from the field, that they were going to shoot 33% from three, that the score in this game was going to be 112 to 110 in overtime, I would have told you that they lost. This was not the kind of script that I thought the Nuggets were going to need. I thought they needed to make this an offensive series. And to be honest, like, that's why they trailed for most of this game, is that this was a defensive slugfest. It was an ugly, ugly game. And what I think was one of the coolest things about this game from a Nuggets fan perspective, I wrote on the newsletter on Friday, the Nuggets have to rediscover their underdog selves, that version that would find a way to win, that every time the people were like, well, they can't win this way, that they would do it, that they would scrap, and they would be the one that was more, that had more endurance, that pushed harder at the end of games, that made tough plays. That's who this team was. Whether it was Aaron Gordon driving through contact, whether it was Russell Westbrook, offensive rebounds, whether it was Jamal Murray, tough shots, whether it was Nikola Jokic taking what the defense gave him, whether it was great defense from Joker in the fourth quarter, they did all of those things. And they did them in a way that I thought was really interesting, and that the context of this game is not what I would have thought a Nuggets win would be. And the fact that they won it, I think they are very proud of that fact. Like, that locker room to me was beaming, and the comments reflect that they were very excited about the fact that, hey, we didn't have the offense clicking. Hey, we didn't hit a ton of shots, and we still found a way to get it done, because they know that's what makes championship metal. And like, they saw that version of themselves again. And I think that went a long way for them in terms of building confidence today.
Stay up to date all year on the Denver Nuggets by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Nuggets on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, a running back should not be an early pick in this upcoming draft. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or Halo as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. No, seriously, pair a controller or four to the Fire TV 4K stick and play your favorite Xbox games anywhere. If you're a hardened gamer or want to have your PlayStation, Switch, or Xbox too, then this is for you. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required, available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Ashton Genty, Boise State star running back, could go very high in the first round. Our own Locked On Raiders host Q took Genty in our ultimate mock draft at number 5, but Locked On NFL host Tyler Rowland and Louis DiBiase discussed running backs are the latest piece of the puzzle that is team building, and most of the teams picking high in the draft need much more than one of those. to be good.
That's my argument too. It's not that Ashton Genty isn't good. It's not that Saquon Barkley isn't incredible. If you have to be in a certain position as a team to take a luxury position like that, like the Lions were in position to get Jahmyr Gibbs and take Sam Laporta. And like last year, Brock Bowers had the single greatest rookie tight end season of all time. I mean, period. Like, he was absolutely incredible. Sorry, Mike Ditka, you're my guy, but that was insane. And how good were the Raiders? They were worse than they were the year before. And look, it's not Brock Bowers' fault that the Raiders didn't win games. Like, that's not the case. It's all the other problems. But that is the point. You can have it. They just had Josh Jacobs and they let him go because it's clear that he wasn't good enough to elevate all the other problems that they have. And Genty is not going to be good enough to do that either. I'm sorry. He's just not. So I think it would be a luxury pick that the Raiders would be fooling themselves to think that they're in a luxury position to take. So for that reason, I think Jacksonville, who has two good edge rushers and a number one cornerback, and they just paid an offensive tackle and drafted an offensive tackle, and you're good at quarterback and you have a stud wide receiver one, and like you have checked the boxes enough to earn the opportunity to take an Ashton Genty. And I just don't think the Raiders have. So whether they should, whether they shouldn't, I think they shouldn't. Whether they will or they won't, I think they would if he's there. I just don't think it's the smart move.
I think they will, because when you look at Jacksonville's situation, Trevor Lawrence, this is like a make or break year. Bringing in a solid presence like this in the backfield to help balance the offense. They need results right away right now. They have to win games.
They got a new coach right now
that's trying to win. They have a quarterback trying to pretty much save his career in Jacksonville, right? Getting an extension and trying to prove that who he was in 2022 can be him long term. So Genty could be that stabilizing force that Saquon Barkley was for Jalen Hurts in 2024. Should they, though? I'm with you, and I'm much less running backs don't matter like I used to be because, of course, I cover the Eagles and I saw a running back be the missing piece and literally take down a dynasty that was going for a three-peat. You look at the Ravens adding Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon to Houston, Josh Jacobs to Green Bay. Running backs help teams win a lot of games in 2024, especially with the new defense. Everybody's playing back cover too. They matter a lot more than they have in years past. But you and I think Brian made the perfect point. They're the final piece to an already complete puzzle. They can't be a position. Even Saquon, it felt like he was carrying Philadelphia, but he also had one of the best offensive lines in football in front of him.
Here's the thing. Tyler and Louis are right. Running backs are force multipliers, but only of good teams. It's one of those weird idiosyncratic things about NFL team building. We saw the impact Saquon Barkley had on the Philadelphia Eagles. They'd probably win the Super Bowl if Saquon Barkley is 80% of Saquon Barkley. If Saquon Barkley is closer to Josh Jacobs, for example, who the Packers signed in free agency, or Derrick Henry, who the Ravens signed in free agency. But the Eagles could have had James Cook and probably won. They could have had 10 or 12 other running backs, but they had Saquon Barkley. And because they had Saquon, they were unstoppable at times. The Patriots or the Raiders or the Jaguars, them taking Ashton Genty makes the team better, but he doesn't solve their problems. That doesn't mean don't take him. If he's the last blue chip player on the board, I would take him. You want the good players. Don't ignore the best players because of the position that they play, or at least not solely because of the position they play. Don't take a tier down defensive tackle or pass rusher or tackle because they're a pass rusher or they're a tackle. Ashton Genty, if you think he's that good, take him. Take him. And then get the rest of the team right. That's the best way to make that pick a good pick. And finally, the Cincinnati Bengals put 24 on the scoreboard against the Baltimore Ravens. Sorry, I have the sports wrong on this. It was the Cincinnati Reds scoring 24 runs on the Baltimore Orioles on Sunday, Easter, for a series victory. They were led by none other than their backup catcher, Austin Wynns, who did something no Red has done in 76 years as he amassed 6 hits in one game. He had a homer and 5 singles on a day while also knocking in 6 runs. The last player in Major League Baseball to get 6 or more hits in a game was Shohei Ohtani against the Miami Marlins in September of 2024. But this is just the 4th instance of a player getting this many knocks in a game in the 2020s. The backup catcher. That's how you score 24 runs. Oh my goodness. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, will Cade Cunningham and the Pistons be able to even the score with the Knicks? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.